Porsche Taycan was unveiled the other day, and now we know everything about it. It goes into production in a few days, and of course the fighting between Tesla and Porsche and everybody else has started. Elon jumped in, but all of these comparisons are all great on paper, but I'm going to talk to someone who is a current Tesla Model S Raven owner, but who also considered buying this car as a second car. Now that he knows everything about it, let's see if he's still considering it. I wonder if you can guess who he is, but I'll tell you in just 1 second, and we're going to start right now.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric!
Welcome to E4Electric, your #1 source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward. Of course, I'm talking about Eli Burton with his Supercharged segment that we're going to do today. Actually, this time we met up in person. I love talking to him in person. We ended up just meeting at a coffee shop and, just having the conversation because I was really curious to know what does he think about this car. And you know, as you know, he drives a Raven. He just got the latest one, so he drives pretty much the best Tesla ever made. And he was considering getting a Porsche Taycan. Well, let's see if he likes it. Now the specs are very close, and I know there's one caveat here. He does like to participate in racing events. You know, as a matter of fact, he organized quite a few of them. I cover them. You can see some of the videos and pictures on my Instagram. By the way, follow me at E4Electric. I do some behind the scenes stuff there if you haven't already. So I was curious, what does he think now? So let me show you the footage. Before that, of course, a quick reminder that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out their all-electric SUV coming to the US and Europe in the next couple of years, mainly because there's a pretty long reservation line, which I hope you can get into now before it's too late or it's too long. Requires no deposit down, about 60 seconds to fill out the form, and boom, the reservation is yours. So join myself and over 50,000 people already done that. The link is in the description of this video. All right, so without further ado, here's my conversation with Eli, and let's see if he is still going to get this baby right here.
Well, it's good to see you in person this time.
Alex, it's so great to be a guest on E4Electric and actually be standing face to face.
We're still cracking up a little bit because we just made a blooper, and you can see it on our Instagram post later. But all right, so today we wanted to do Tesla Model S versus Mission E Taycan, which, you know, and people have done these videos all over the place. But you're the person who loves your Tesla Model S, and you actually wanted to get a Taycan as a second car. Now that you know what Model S obviously looks and feels like, you have the latest Raven, and now you know what the Taycan looks and all the specs are like. Neither one of us driven it. What are your thoughts now?
So initially, when the Mission E was first announced, my initial reaction was, oh my God, that is an amazing looking car. It still looked like a Porsche, but it looked like a Porsche from the future. Like, it really looked like they were embracing this futuristic thing, very similar to what Tesla had done. Now, then we saw the concept one come out, or once they had it into, what do they call that, the camouflage car?
Yeah, camo.
Yeah, we saw the camo car, and it was like, oh, they're starting to step away from it. And then ultimately, when they put it in white, it looked a little bit similar to the initial design. But when I'm looking at it now, I'm like, nah, the door handles aren't the same. It doesn't have the same sleek curves. You can still see the influence of the initial Mission E design, but it's no longer this amazing design car that I saw at first. And I think you said it in your video best. Like, it's still a great looking car, but they set our expectations really high with the Mission E, and now all they've done is disappoint them.
Yeah, and you know, so a lot of people yesterday, and I don't know how many of it is maybe their close relationship with Porsche or whatever, but they all of a sudden think, oh my God, the Taycan actually looks like Mission E. But it's like, no, you just saw it on white for the first time, right?
I completely agree. Yeah, because my initial take was it looked a lot like Mission E, and then I saw your video showing them side by side, and I'm like, oh, it's just the color. Yeah. It actually looks very similar to what we saw a month or so ago.
All right, so now let's talk about the specs. I mean, the specs came out to be better, most of them, than we thought. How would you compare it to what you have, which is a Model S Raven with ludicrous and all of that stuff?
So Porsche really did impress me on the specs. Actually, when I saw that they had a 2.6 second 0 to 60 in launch mode, that's fantastic. I wasn't expecting them to get that close to Tesla's 2.4, or we've seen as low as I've done, which is 2.26. But still, we're in the 2 range. That's exceptional. I was surprised. I wasn't actually that surprised to see that Tesla still beats it in the quarter mile. But we'll talk about that a little bit later, why that's significant. But yeah, the performance specs they excited me. That was where I was initially excited.
Yeah, I don't know if you know that even though they did get to up to 270 kilowatt in charging, if you want to charge with the lesser 150 kilowatt, you literally have to pay extra $500 or so to get to dump the car up so it can take a lesser charge, which is kind of weird. But what do you think about this 270 kilowatt top rate?
I think they did 270 instead of 250 just so they could come out a little bit higher than Tesla. I think it's a good charging rate to start. I'm 0% surprised, by the way, that they didn't do 350. Elon called a couple years ago and they announced this, that look, yeah, you can do 350, but you're going to frag the battery with today's technology. And everybody was like, oh no, Porsche says they're going to do it. As it comes out, Elon's call was right, and I think it's just based upon Elon has a very deep understanding where battery tech is and charging is now. So I'm not surprised to see it at 250, 270. I think the thing that matters though is how many minutes you spend to get X amount of miles of charge. And in the case of the Taycan, the Model S, they're now actually even. So for the Taycan, it'll get up to, you can charge 200 miles in like 18 minutes. And in Tesla Model S, it's 17.1 minutes. So they're basically exactly equal in the effective rate of charge.
I'm glad you mentioned this because, all of this talk about the rate, which actually top rate anyway, that's just a peak rate. Really, it all comes down, as far as consumers are concerned, is how many miles they can charge per hour. And that's all that matters. So, okay, so they're matching up in a lot of the specs. Now, let's talk about interior because, if anything, a legacy manufacturer should be able to be Tesla in an interior, the quality of luxury, and so forth. What do you think?
I think I'm going to have to get in the car because I looked in the configurator, I looked at the photos. I have a hard time really imagining what the experience is going to be like. There's a lot of interior configuration options, as is classic legacy auto manufacturer and Porsche. I think if you were to look at all of the configuration options, there's one of like 800 different car configurations you could come up with, I think, with just interior alone. But that's what these guys do, right? They're a very niche, luxury-specific brand that does a lot of configuration. So I think a lot of people are going to like that. It's hard looking at it to tell.
All right. Now, let's talk about everything that has Taycan everything we everyone work. I love making the joke because it just fits so perfectly. Because holy crap, talk about the price comparison now.
So that's the elephant in the room we haven't talked about yet. The price of the Taycan.
I think the price is actually higher than the elephant.
Yeah, it might be. The price of this Taycan is unbelievable. So for the one that actually has specs closest to the Model S, it's $185,000 base. I went through the configurator and I looked at the options that if I was going to buy this car, I'd want to have, which, by the way, the options include, if you want adaptive cruise control, it's like $4,000. And I went through it. Again, I'm not somebody who's going to go crazy customization because you could turn this into like a $400,000 car if you went with all the most expensive stuff. But just the things that I looked at and be like, if I was going to buy this car, I'd want was about $20,000 in options. And we're now looking at an over $200,000 car to have the same equivalent feature set and relatively similar performance to the Model S. So now the gap between a true equivalent is $100,000.
Double.
That's a ton of money difference. And what that tells me is that I think there's going to be people who buy this car, but if you're somebody who's buying a Porsche Taycan, I don't think you're going to get people who are going to like, oh, I'm going to buy that instead of a Tesla Model S. I think you're going to get Tesla Model S owners that have money and that are going to buy a Taycan too. But at the gap in the price point, that's a completely different market.
All right, so now we kind of talked about everything, and in some ways it's comparable, some ways it's not. Would you consider buying a Taycan as your second car as you did before?
At the price point, absolutely not. It just doesn't make, like at $200,000, I would just get a next-gen Tesla Roadster and get better performance out of it, because what the next-gen Tesla Roadster is promising, even at the base model, and actually I can afford the Founder Series at the same price of the base model thanks to the discount that I did get. So no, I wouldn't. At that price point, it's absolutely next-gen Roadster. So one of the things that I see a lot of coverage happening that I don't understand is that people are trying to claim that the brilliance that Porsche did by putting in a transmission in a 2-gear system, and the narrative that is being told is that, well, Porsche added this extra gear so they can get both they can get high acceleration at low speeds and then continue that acceleration at high speeds. But here's the thing. Porsche, with a transmission in 2 gears, is still doing a slower quarter mile than the Tesla Model S that has 1 gear. So I don't know where Porsche is supposedly gaining the additional acceleration at the top end. But when I really thought about that, what that's telling me is Tesla actually does have a technology advantage that for Porsche to come close to, they've had to add the second gear. Because if Tesla can get to 130 miles an hour from 0 to 130 faster than the Porsche can, and the top speed is 165, what do you tell me? Porsche is beating Tesla between 130 and 165 that you can use nowhere ever. Even the Autobahn, which I've spent some time on, good luck finding traffic, not finding traffic on the Autobahn. It's been a week on that road, and there's a ton of traffic. But
I'm going to Germany next week. We'll see.
what this is telling me, though, is that Porsche had to put this gear in just to make their even top-end acceleration competitive with Tesla. I think that's really telling.
Now, let me ask you this, because you brought, performance, and everybody who has tested this car and talked about the performance says that they really did put so much effort into the race mode, track mode, that it really is better than Tesla if you're taking it to a racetrack. First of all, would you agree?
It's Tesla Model S is not a track car. It's not a track mode car. It does exceptionally on the drag races, and unlike what Porsche suggested that a Tesla can't do a drag race more than 2 times in a row, I've done it 11 times in a row and had no problem. I didn't lose. I was still doing under 10-second quarter miles or in 10-second range quarter miles. Tesla Model S P100D, especially with the Raven, it can do the quarter mile no problem. But that car, if you take the Tesla Model S on a track within a lap and a half, you're going to be in limp mode. It is not the track car. If you want to track a Tesla, you're buying a performance Model 3.
Yeah, and the thing is, the honest answer is yes. I mean, they did do a better job because that's what they were kind of putting all of their efforts into. But here's my question.
They definitely beat the Model S in track functionality. Model S doesn't have it. Porsche Taycan does.
Now, here's my question. How many people will really be buying a car like this specifically to take it out on the track, right? I would assume it's a 4-door sedan. I would assume if people are that crazy about it, they'll either customize a car, or if they want, it would be a 2-door sports car or whatever. Is that option, as great as it is, an advantage? Really not an advantage because most people may not care about it.
I think it's a nice thing to be able to say for the brand angle of it, but yeah, most people buying these cars are never going to track them.
Now, when we say these cars, I mean, people who buy Porsche do want performance, but 4-door Porsche?
Yeah, and again, the reason I upgraded to a P100D is I wanted performance, but it wasn't for a track. It was, I'll do a drag strip. That's, as far as I'm going to go and have fun on the streets. But yeah, that was something that was surprising me too. And they ultimately made this thing a 4-door, but also I was hoping and expecting the weight on this car would come in less than what it was. And right now it's right between the Model S and Model X in total weight. And I was expecting it to be less because this car is a bit smaller than the Model S.
All right. Well, listen, I think we're kind of looking at the same way. I'm hoping they're going to come up with a cheaper version, but the specs will probably suck. I mean, they'll probably get closer to 200-mile range, and that's going to be also disappointing. So, all right. Well, I agree. I'm agreeing with your opinion, really, and we'll see what happens with them. I hope we'll see how fast people will drop out of their reservation list, right? And then we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I am excited this car exists. This is a big deal, but at the price point it turns out to be now, which is not the $85,000 announced, what it means for the market and what it means for the electric vehicle movement, it's now a very different story than it was even a month ago.
All right. Well, as always, tell us where people can find you and tell us about your next podcast.
Awesome. So you can find me on Instagram primarily at My Tesla Adventure. We also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/MyTeslaAdventure. And actually, the biggest thing I have coming up next that we're working on, and I think I mentioned this on your last show, we're going to have a Tesla owners meetup, road trip drive during an afternoon, have a private dinner we're going to have it at Half Moon Bay this time. That's coming up the end of October. So there'll be more details to come soon on the My Tesla Adventure Facebook page.
All right. Well, the conversation with I is always entertaining. I kind of expected that the price is going to be a problem for a lot of people. So I know they have like 30 or 40,000 reservations. I wonder how many people are going to still stay, as I mentioned. But it looks like Eli is not going to be one of them, which I totally understand. Definitely do follow him on all of those media that he mentioned. The link is in the description of this video. And of course, a quick shout out to one of my newer patrons, Michael Malik. Thank you so much for supporting my show. You can watch me live as a perk, but thank you for providing this support. I'm a full-time YouTuber now, so this means a lot to me. You can go to patreon.com/e4electric, but that link is also in the description of this video. So is the link to subscribe to our free newsletter. bonus stories at the end of each week, the stories that just we weren't able to cover on this channel or even on our website at e4lecture.com. So my writer writes it up for you guys, goes right into your inbox. Go to e4lecture.com/VIP, or the link is also in the description of this video. All right, looking forward to your comments for myself, for Eli, for both of us. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.